Research shows that ancient civilizations knew about the anti-aging benefits of turmeric long before we did, but somehow that information got lost along the way. Now, over 2,000 peer-reviewed studies have since provided evidence behind the many benefits of turmeric. Anybody who wants more energy and firmer, younger-looking skin should get this. Learn more by going to www.agewithbill.com. Furthermore, you'll get 43% off your first bottle if you order today, plus a 60-day money-back guarantee. Good evening. I'm still reporting on COVID. We have known for at least a year that COVID was being used by the desperados for their own political purposes. But even we could not have guessed that the biggest newspapers in this nation were not just following their political instincts, they were outright taking bribes to ignore the dirty secrets that China was desperately trying to hide about the origins of COVID-19. Tucker Carlson exposed the fact that the New York Times has deleted from its website every story and advert that was pure political propaganda paid for by Communist China. We applaud he and his researchers for this great service to the United States in this, its darkest hours since the Civil War. This runs about 15 minutes as is, so I'll limit my commentary until a later time on this crucial subject.
Last summer, as the COVID pandemic raged throughout the United States, people who still read the New York Times began to notice something very strange happening at the paper. Hundreds of articles that had appeared there going back nearly a decade suddenly vanished. They disappeared. There's no way to find them. Nothing like this had ever happened. The New York Times considers itself, very self-consciously, a living historical record. The paper maintains meticulous, searchable archives going back to before the Civil War, to 1851. Yet last August, a huge number of articles just disappeared. So what was in those articles? We know the answer because a handful of history-minded readers preserved them when they first appeared. Every one of them was a propaganda piece paid for by the Chinese Communist Party, all designed to look like news articles. You're seeing one of them on your screen right now. It reads, "China Watch. Diaoyu Islands belong to China." That's the headline. Now, why would the New York Times, America's paper of record, print propaganda from a totalitarian regime and pretend it was a news article? Well, for money. Financial filings show the New York Times made more than $100,000 a month from this garbage. Those payments were not disclosed at the time. They were hidden from New York Times readers. They were only uncovered after the fact by the Washington Free Beacon. And the Times wasn't the only news organization that did this, that took money from the Chinese Communist Party. Since 2016, the Chinese Communist Party paid $20 million to outlets like the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, and the Washington Post. Twitter, which now operates as a publisher, also received checks from the Chinese government totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, these arrangements, as we said, continued for years, and then last summer, they stopped abruptly. The New York Times tried to hide the evidence that any of it ever happened. But why? The New York Times won't say when we asked. "We do not discuss revenue beyond what is in our quarterly earnings report," a spokesman told us this morning. So we kept looking. But first, here's some context for what the New York Times did. This is what mainstream news coverage in the United States looked like for most of last year. As you watch it, see if you can tell the difference between this and what you might see on Chinese state television.
The president referred to the coronavirus as a, quote, foreign virus. And I think it's going to it's going to come across to a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia.
Xenophobic wartime Trump, where he thinks the only path now is to basically declare the virus public enemy number one, to paint it in somewhat racist terms.
The xenophobia and the racism in outbreak is such a common thing, and it is incredibly dangerous. It is problematic, and it is scary, and I just really want to call that out.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why.
Don't you love to see the boss act like a boss? Anyway, the coup is rapidly coming apart, but for the short term, the danger to channels like ours is increasing. So I'm cutting this report right here and asking you to mosey over to our billstill.tv channel to see the excellent additional 11 minutes of this report. This is the procedure which we have been advised to follow by our network, the Republic Network, to keep this channel safe for the time being. We already have one strike for daring to publish a World Health Organization press release. We can't afford another one. Hopefully the big social media will soon see that this isn't working and start to relax their censoring and return to the search for the truth, which is the only way that freedom can be preserved. Please go now to www.billstill.tv and look for number 3654B. I'm still reporting from the soon-to-be-restored citadel of world freedom. Good day.